Cool, cool. Let's get it rolling.
All right.
I'm Alex with Grow World, and we have BatchNav with us, Ashley and Mike. I've been talking to you guys for a little while, kind of mind-blowing stuff that you guys have told me about the issues that you guys are trying to solve and how long you've been in the game doing this sort of thing in different ways. So let's get a little background information on you guys. How did it start? How did BatchNav start? What did you guys do before? And what kind of issues did you see that you wanted to target?
Well, I was a general manager for a cultivation operation for about 12 years. And, like all managers, top management expects you to maintain quality, always lower costs, and always increase production. And I'm fine with that as long as I have the right tools to do that. So my biggest problem, and which was the source of BatchNav, is that I couldn't get to my true batch costs. And it didn't matter how many spreadsheets or ERPs or track and trace systems I used. I never knew what my clones started at or my seedlings started at. And that's the source of my frustration and why I spent 3.5 years, put together a development team, and borrowed from my kids' inheritance to fund it. And now we have BatchNav.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's issues, obviously. We have a lot of taxation, we have a lot of regulation, and everyone needs to do their best to cut costs and have the lowest overhead and the best profit. So how do you guys isolate that? That is the biggest problem. How do you guys target that and solve that?
Wow, that's a good question. So we know that the operations folks, the folks that are actually building the products, don't know their costs from start to finish. The problem is that there's a standard costing method that is adopted from factories that make cars, Doritos, and Pepsi, and that's now applied to the cannabis industry. And it works very well for factories where exacting standards are repeated, the batch is the same every day, every week, every month. And I think anybody that comes from the cannabis industry knows that cannabis production is anything but precise. Biological variability is a constant. With Pepsi, sugar doesn't test at 18% in one batch and then 23% in the next batch. That's the problem.
Yep.
So, and how many products do you buy that come with a separate lab analysis report, right? So by definition, every batch in cannabis is unique.
And I was just going to say, and then you roll over to that, right, and you look at the price compression that we're all facing right now, and if you don't have those costs, it ends up, from a marketing standpoint, you're looking at something and you're like, this costs $5, I can run this deal, whatever, right, to get people into the dispensary, and if that's not your real cost, you can end up losing so much money, which ends up, defeating the purpose of trying to, battle that price compression and offer the best prices, the best products and things like that. So that's why it's so essential to have that starting point.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So does anyone know their true costs?
If you were a cannabis operation and you grew one strain and you produced a couple finished products from that one strain and you didn't start the next batch until the last one finished, you could get to your true costs. That would be no problem. But the problem with our industry is the average cultivation site turns 20 to 30 strains into 15 or 20 finished goods. Lab processors turn 15 to 20 different products into finished goods. And every batch is unique. And every batch, you need to know your costs for every strain in every batch.
And you can't use the same cost for the whole year. Because like he's saying, right, batches are so specific. So if you have your strain and you're like, I'm growing OG Kush and this is my price per gram or whatever, right? It's never going to be the same for every batch. So you almost have to look at it, would you say almost monthly, right? To see what's going on batch to batch and re-updating.
At least monthly.
And yeah, that ties right into what you guys do so, totally unique. I loved when I first started talking to you guys. ERP, you guys kept saying ERP isn't really cutting it for what we do. So, are there any tools to solve what you were just saying? And what are the issues with them, and what do you bring that's a little different?
Well, starting with the track and trace software, its job is to tell the state what you have and in what quantity. Costs are irrelevant to track and trace. Some systems out there track material costs. A few others also track labor costs. True ERP systems track overhead, but they spread it like peanut butter over everything. So everyone should understand that costs come in three flavors: labor, material, and overhead. And every small restaurant owner knows these numbers intimately. And in the restaurant biz, they typically break down a third, a third, and a third. But that's for the restaurant industry. In the cannabis industry, your costs divide into about 10 to 15% materials, 20 to 50% labor, and 30 to 60% overhead. So if all your software tracks is labor and material, you're missing about half the puzzle pieces. So
And that's when your numbers don't match at the end of the month, right?
that's correct. That is correct.
And so with your tech, you could constantly have a revolving, accurate cost throughout the
Correct.
year and all that.
Correct.
And then too, like as a cultivation, you'll know when to pivot, right? If a strain isn't like producing and giving you that revenue, that yield, all those things that you need, you can make those decisions earlier on and then end up saving yourself that money in the long run.
Right. So with all the moving parts that you've factored in to your tech, obviously it's taken a little bit of time. You've built an enormous line, what I think billions of lines of code. I think I heard a couple of times. So how it took some time, but I guess why did it take some time? What were you doing while you were developing this, and how did it become such a giant monster?
Well, the software itself is very complex. And if it wasn't, it probably would have been built by now by someone else. But it's not hard for the user. The complexity is kind of hidden behind the scenes. So it's built for the average production worker. And every production worker knows how many hours it takes to transplant 100 plants. He or she also knows how many bags of soil they used. How long did the soil mixer run? These are the things they know. Behind the scenes, the software is calculating the cost of the material, the labor, applying overhead, and the mechanical costs and the machine costs. So our system is actually quite easy to use. And it's the standard costing systems that are actually the ones that are more complex. It requires basically an accountant to do the calculations. It's so complicated that often it's not, they calculate about every quarter or every 6 months because it would just take too much accounting time to do it any sooner than that.
Wow.
BatchNav, you can close a month in BatchNav in 10 minutes without an accountant. So we think that's a major advantage.
Sure
Cuts
sounds
down
like
on the labor too, right?
Absolutely. And labor is one thing that you could cut and lower your overhead costs and increase your profit. So that's perfect. And you mentioned, this stuff's super complex. What's one myth about cultivation profitability that you'd like to see die once and for all?
Well, there's a lot to choose from. But I would say grams per square foot. I am so tired of hearing that.
Grams per square foot.
That plant yield or biomass weight somehow equates to profit. It does not. Bigger harvests don't mean better margins, especially when half of your costs are hiding in overhead.
Great answer. So the next generation of cannabis leaders, how will they think differently about this profitability, the data, the cost, and efficiency than, say, the legacy cultivators that have been around for a while?
I think the operations managers using software like ours should expect to see costs, their true costs at every process stage for every unique batch. This will give them the information they need to maximize efficiency and profitability.
Awesome.
I was going to add too, right? When you have that ability to know what's performing and what's not, you're able to scale easier and more efficiently, right? And make that profit revenue work for you instead of like having surprises at the end of the month, which nobody wants.
Right. And also, no one has the ability to make mistakes like that for
Right.
much longer with everything going on. So,
Yep.
congratulations on what you've built.
Thank you.
It's an incredible information that I've heard from you guys all the time ever since I've started talking with you. And we're really excited to be partnered up and working with you more out there on the internet. If you're watching this, find BatchNav. You can find them on Grow World. You can find them a lot of other ways, I'm sure. But we would love to connect all you growers with this wonderful new company out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.